Jason Stahl, and today I'm introducing a brand new podcast series sponsored by Sherwin-Williams called Paint Productivity and Profit. And today I have a very special guest with me. His name is Ted Williams. He is the Global Director of Business Services for Sherwin-Williams. Welcome.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. And today's topic is going to be prescription for creating an advantage for your collision repair facility. And so, Ted, the first question I had for you is, it's interesting that a paint company would have someone focused on customer value creation. Is this focused just on paint or other aspects of the business?
As a company, we look at a very comprehensive approach in the way that we support our customers. So we look at everything from how we produce the product and the product proficiencies all the way to everything outside the can to help them assure outcomes. So my focus in the company is how do we actually create that value that our customers have or customers need in order to be successful in the marketplace.
Nice. So effectively, you're helping your customers create an advantage in a rapidly changing marketplace.
Oh, absolutely. And rapidly changing is a great term for it because we are facing a lot of changes in our industry today.
So Ted, this is the first in a series of podcasts where others will have the opportunity to go into more detail of what you share today. As you consider this, what would be your prescription for creating an advantage?
Okay, so I typically use the terminology that I call the 4 A's. And if you think about when you're in school, you were always trying to achieve that A. And so I use those 4 A's as I evaluate potential vendor partners for us because I look at how that partner is going to fit within our strategy to be able to support our customers. And I think there's a lot to be learned by this because I think that same concept can be used by a collision center to evaluate who the right strategic partners are for their business.
Yeah, you mentioned A's with school. I'm not familiar with that, by the way.
Yeah.
So Ted, what are these 4 A's that create an advantage?
Okay, so the first one would be assurance, accountability, alignment, and agility. And as I mentioned, I take all these into consideration when I make a decision about who we choose, and we can kind of expand more on those if you like.
Yeah, let's start with assurance. Explain that thoroughly to me.
Okay, so generally, if you think about the world of salespeople, one of the things that commonly shows up with people's dissatisfaction is that people tend to promise a lot of things that don't get delivered. And because of that, even during the process of the sales process, the consumer or the audience that's being sold is reluctant to make a decision. So what we've tried to focus on from this is, when I say assurance, is what is going to be the ability of somebody to actually execute on what they're promising for you. Some great examples of how we address this internally is that we know one of the biggest concerns and constraints that a collision center has is about changing a paint line. It's not something that people normally want to do. It's not something they normally do. But we think about this in a very methodical manner because we do this every day. So we build a contingency plan and a complete task list on how we go about doing that. And in the process of our sales, we actually communicate that to the shop so they can have assurance of knowing that we have a plan in place with contingencies to make sure that we have as little, if any, disruption in their business, and the process is very smooth. The second thing is you think about commitments that you make around business improvement. We put a big focus on the task and the responsibilities involved with making sure that those are achieved. And we go as far as actually having I go into our next section, the accountabilities in place to make sure it's done.
Okay, so accountability, that's the next A. Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, so when you think about the accountability piece, you have to look at what is going to help you assure that the actual agreement and what you've decided to focus on is done. So one of the things we put a heavy emphasis on is SMART goals. Goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. And we build an entire account management plan around making sure that we can achieve those goals, making sure that everybody understands what their role is in being able to achieve those. We then also use our customer CRM platform to make sure that we're communicating activities among each other. And one of the benefits that we have in particular being able to help control this experience is that we're unique in the fact that we have a direct distribution platform. And so we can distribute our product through our company-owned stores where we have company-trained employees, and we're able to ensure that the processes are completed and the agreement that we make with the customer is actually achieved. And this is the great thing about this is one of the reasons that we tend to have a lot of success in the MSO segment. But this is not just something available to MSOs. Any collision center can get that same MSO type experience through what we are doing from this standpoint.
Interesting point. Any facility can get the MSO experience. That's great. So let's talk about the next A, alignment. And I'm guessing we're not talking about alignment racks or wheels, right?
No. I think it's important that you have to make sure that the strategic partners you choose are aligned to your vision of your business. Some great examples of this: if one of your goals is to control your paint material costs to have higher profitability, you need to consider, is the salesperson for the company that you're talking to commission based? Because their vision and their responsibilities are not aligned with yours if you're trying to cut cost and they're compensated on selling you more. Another thing is you think about things like OEM programs. If you're a shop that's focused on OEM certification, is your vendor and the products they provide aligned with that vision of an OEM program, or is their goals and their objectives different in the fact of the products that they sell and the way they go to market? So that's important when I say from alignment. The second piece is, I think, it's having communication and being able to have access to leadership at various levels of the company so that you know your voice is heard, so that you know that you're able to accomplish the things that you're trying to accomplish. And that in itself is a great benefit for someone.
So Ted, the final A, agility. And I'm guessing also we're not talking about gymnastics here. Explain agility to me.
Okay, agility is the ability to adapt quickly to changing things in the marketplace. And I'll give you a great example. Back when we go to the time of COVID, we went through that COVID period and everybody had to make a big adjustment in how they handle things. And we had to change and adjust the way we handled our performance groups. We can no longer meet in person, so we changed the format to be able to continue to provide value to those groups. Well, emerging from COVID, we began seeing a trend that really, frankly, in my first time in my 32-year career that I saw this, shops were in a situation where they were going to have some power in negotiating labor rates and material rates. And so we saw this trend coming, we were prepared for it, and so what we did with our performance groups is we brought in people to talk about negotiation training. We brought in resources to help them make their position and argument with those insurance companies, and we were very effective in helping those groups achieve the goals of raising their rates. And they're still benefiting from those actions several years later. The same thing is happening today. I look at what's going on in the industry and claim volumes are down. It's a trend that may continue happening because we're seeing higher total loss rates. There's claim reluctance because of rising premiums, so a lot of repairable claims just aren't getting repaired in the shops today. And so we have to prepare for that. So one thing is we saw this trend back when we were robust and full of work. We saw this trend was going to happen sometime down the path, and we've been preparing for it for a period of time and getting our customers ready. And it led to the design of what I call customer lifecycle ownership. And it's helping a shop understand how they diversify their business, how they create new business opportunities, how they create new contact points. And so it leads to things about how can you work with a dealership that maybe doesn't have a collision center? Is there an opportunity that some of those vehicles that didn't get repaired, that are drivable repair damage, could be going through service lanes at these dealerships every day? And could we be resurrecting some of those claims into repairs? It's looking at fleet opportunities. Can you diversify your business and start taking care of fleet opportunities? So it's a very robust approach of looking at how do we actually do that, and it's built around benefiting all the stakeholders, not just one individual stakeholder. So we focus on the OEM, the dealer, the collision center, and the consumer, because we want to make sure that we have a right and proper repair. So we see this as a beneficial approach for them.
What a great story that, negotiation tactics, for example, that you taught 4 or 5 years ago are still having an impact today. That's a great story. These are all great points, Ted, and I'm sure shops are going to want more details. So what's the plan?
Well, the plan is that we're going to be doing a series of podcasts, and we want the shops to turn in because we think it's going to be a very informative series. It'll be a series that's probably a little different than any of them they've ever done because we're going to essentially lay out a lot of detail into how you go about doing these things and accomplishing them. So we'll have a series where we're talking about data and the use of connected data and how you can actually do that to drive decisions in your business. And more importantly, the real-time use of data so that you're actually making decisions now when you still have an opportunity to change the outcomes rather than doing a post-mortem and trying to figure out what went wrong. We're going to be talking about the fleet opportunities I discussed. What does that opportunity look like, and how does a shop actually look at the opportunities around fleet and get into that segment of business? So we're going to be putting a lot of emphasis on these new opportunities to help shops during these somewhat challenging times to get better control of their business and to have better outcomes for what they're trying to focus on.
Great. So this is going to be a series, and this is the first one, and this is just the beginning. This is awesome. Anything else you wanted to add?
Well, when you go back to some of the things that we've talked about, I think it's critically important in this day and time that shops look for resources. You can't be the Lone Ranger. You have to have partners in your process, and we put a heavy emphasis on our consulting services, our vision groups, having new innovative ideas that we bring to the customers. And that goes back to when I talk about the 4 A's, is that these are some of the things that you need to really take into consideration when you make your strategic decisions about a paint partner, because it really is more than just paint. It's about a business experience that helps you achieve your objectives, and making that the right decision is critically important to a collision center.
Ted, to tack on to the alignment, is training involved in that?
Oh, absolutely. Training is a huge component of it. And I think what's important with this is making sure that whoever you choose as your strategic partner has access to the training that you need and can deliver it in a timely manner, whether it's from themselves or through other strategic partners they have, because that's when you have the best opportunity for benefit, is to be able to get that training when and where you need it.
So Ted, this is great information, and thank you for kicking off the series. If watchers or listeners out there want more information about Sherwin-Williams products and services, where can they go?
They can go to our website, which we'll be showing here on the screen in just a moment. And if you go there, go to the Contact Us section. There's a form you can fill out. You can actually select particular topics that you have interest in, and we'll have our experts reach out to you to follow up and answer any questions that you have.
Excellent. Thanks again, Ted.
All right, thank you.
I'm Jason Stahl. Thanks for watching.